My name is Abiy Ahmed. I'm going to present my PhD proposal entitled with Social Capital and its role in traditional conflict resolution in Ethiopia, where the case interreligious conflict in Jimma. Since I'm going to use the term social capital in many of my slides, I would prefer to start defining the concept of social capital first. Even though the concept of social capital is emerging as important element for social cohesion and social computing, but it doesn't have single definition. Rather, it's packed with different concepts and definitions that makes it difficult to simplify, classify, and analyze it. Some of the definitions are complementary, while the others are contradictory. And this critical limitation in conceptual and ontological status in defining social capital resulted in weakness in theoretical and empirical studies. Even though this fluidity has got its own downside on defining the concept, but there are several definitions in literatures. The major definitions are a social network, mutual acquaintance, and social recognition. Social structures that facilitate individuals' actions within the social structure. Molds the quality and the quantity of social interaction and strengthen communal interaction. All the above definition and other related definitions focus on network of social connections, while the definition by Putnam includes an additional dimension about how social capital plays a vital role to enhance a better achievement in socio-economic outcomes. And his definitions are the most relevant definition to my study context. After we see briefly the definition, it's better to compare and contrast the concept of social capital with other well-known concepts. For that, we will see the nexus between social capital and development. Traditionally, the constituents of capital were known by natural, physical, political, and human capital. But in recent years, social capital is included as important ingredient for economic development. The reason behind this, the visibility of this intangible capital is more visible between countries and even between regions of the same country, can result in different level of economic development. We can take Italy as an example. Northern part of Italy exercised the horizontal social capital, while the southern part practiced the vertical social capital. Due to the better endowment of horizontal social capital as opposed to the hierarchical one, the quality life in north is much better than the south. This comparison also serves to compare with conflict. Conflict can affect both tangible and intangible capitals. If you see, as an example, the civil war in Korea, the war between North and South Korea, was devastating for that nation in many ways. But for Japan, it was a great opportunity for their rebirth of their economy. Likewise, conflict affects social capital both positively and negatively. In the case of interstate conflict, which strengthens social cohesion, that in turn create a positive social capital. We can take as an example Italy war. During this war, it doesn't mean there was no any local issues, local agendas, but when the invader tries to attack the nation, the social capital plays on mobilizing national resources, communal thoughts, and prioritizing the agenda on defending their territory from the invaders. In this specific case, the conflict plays on enhancing social capital. On contrary, if you see intrastate conflict, which weakens social cohesion to further perpetuate a violent conflict. We can take Cambodia as an example. Cambodians' political elite were ambitiously dreamed to recreate Cambodia in a way that starting life from zero, sending the doctors to village to start life from agriculture, which erodes the social capital of that nation and decay the social cohesion of among different groups. In intrastate conflict, we can see how social capital destroyed. So intrastate conflict may play a positive role for social capital. On contrary, intrastate conflict plays in a very negative way. Not only conflict has an effect on social capital, but social capital also has both positive and negative effect on conflict. If we see as an example, bonding social capital can be perverted for individual or group gains and generates exclusionary forces to breed further conflict. We can take what had happened in Rwanda. Both Hutu and Tutsi appreciate their group's value while they lose tolerance among different groups, which led them to a very devastating conflict in that nation. On contrary, bridging social capital minimizes the detrimental effect of bonding social capital. We can see as an example Equb or Iddur, the smallest institution in Ethiopia. In Equb or Iddur, there might be different religious groups, different tribes together. In this specific case, that Equb serves as a glue on bringing different groups together. And that forum gives them to air out if there is any grievances. And that airing out grievances also serve on averting conflict. And also build a cognitive one on trust, values, and norms. So social capital has both a positive and negative effect on conflict, like the conflict has both a positive and negative effect. Conflict resolution mechanism can be done. Both formal and informal institutions are useful to club complex societal conflict. But the formal one lacks mechanism to revive eroded social value and traditional deeply divided social groups and rebuild social psychology. We can take as an example a Borna-Garri conflict. Most of the time, the formal institution jeopardize long-term peace-building process and lose to understand the root cause of the conflict, while the informal one plays a very great role on resolving the conflict, and also it heals physical, psychological, and emotional trauma developed after conflict. Not only that, the informal institution also facilitate regeneration of broken social fabrics through reconciliation, addresses the root cause of the conflict. We can also see several examples both from Africa and Ethiopia. If we take Gacaca of Rwanda, which is an informal institution and plays a great role in Rwanda civil war. Also, Ubuntu of South Africa is playing an amazing role on supporting or filling the gap of the formal institutions. So, those informal institutions in Africa, more specifically in Ethiopia, are very vital on conflict management, also conflict aversion.
ይቅር እንደተባባላችሁ ሁሉ ይቅር ይበላችሁ። ያለፈውን ክፉ ሁሉ በመልካምና በፍቅር ሽሮ አዋህዶ ያኑራችሁ። ከሚያሳስት፣ ከሚያጣላ፣ ከሚያጋጭና ደም ከሚያፋስስ ክፉ ሁሉ ይጠብቃችሁ። አሜን።
In our historical context in Ethiopia, the creation of modern Ethiopia marked by power struggle and a conflict among different cleavages, including devastating religious violent conflict. Even though most of the religious conflict in the past were result of leaders, those who consider an instrument for their legitimacy. We can see few examples. In 4th century, there was a conflict between Christianity and traditional religions. Not only the Beja rebellion, but also the Judaism were involved in this specific conflict, and Judaism, the followers of Judaism were sent or derived to the inaccessible mountains of the north during this war. Also, in 10th century, another notable history were registered in Ethiopia between Christianity and Judaism, were led by Yorit Gudit. Another Notable phenomena of conflict were led by Ahmed Grain between Muslim and Christian. The Muslim from the east were attacking the central and highlander of Christians. Also, another phenomena were happened in 18th century during Emperor Johannes, right after Boromeda Council around Wollo region between Muslim and Christian. This all conflicts were left deep scare and a fear in our society. Also, this all conflicts were not purely religious conflict. There was visible involvement of the political leaders for their own benefits. But even though this all conflicts left deep scare in our society, but there are amazing a positive social tie. So despite long rivalry between Christianity and Islam, there are areas where minority Muslim lives in harmony with majority Christians and vice versa. We can see as an example minority Muslim in Sidama and Gurage, while minority Christians in Hararge. Not only minority lives in a majority area, but also Ethiopia is known to build marriage between Muslim and Christian. We can take as an example my mom and dad. My dad is Muslim and my mom is Christian. They live together for 50 years and they have 9 children in common. This tells to build a small institution called family in Ethiopia were not a problem to marry different religion or Muslim with Christian. This great tie,
ሚሳኤል፣ ታንክ፣ ክላሽንኮቭ፣ ብሬን የሰው አካል መማረክ ይችላል፣ የሰው ልብ ግን መማረክ አይችልም።
ቀጥታ ከዚህ ተነስተን አዲስ አበባ ሄድን። ከዚያ በኋላ ካገኙን በኋላ እንደው ለወደፊቱ ቀላል ነገር አድርጋችሁ ልታዩ ትችላላችሁ እና የመጀመሪያ በሃይማኖት ተቋማት እጅ ለእጅ በመያያዝ ጅማ ክልል ውስጥ ጅማ ዞን ውስጥ ያለውን ነገር ያለውን የሰው መለያየት የምታቀራርቡ ወጣቶች ናችሁና በሚል ልዩ ብዙ ትምህርት ሰጡን። ትምህርት በሚሰጡን ሰዓት ከእስልምና ሃይማኖትም ብዙ አንብበዋሉ። የእስልምና ሃይማኖትን ቁርአኖች እያጣቀሱ ከእንግሊዝኛውም ከምኑም ከክርስትናውም ደግሞ ከመጽሐፍ ቅዱስ ስለ ሰላም ጉዳይ ከኛ ጋር መወያየት ጀመሩ። በጣም እንትናችንን አሰፉ።
ጦርነት አይበጅም፣ አያስፈልግም። ለኢትዮጵያውያንና ኤርትራውያን የሚያስፈልገው ያላቸው ሊገዙት ሩቅ ምስራቅ የማያስኬዳቸው በልባቸው በተፈጥሮ የሰነቁት ፍቅር ብቻ ነው።
ከዚያ በኋላ እጅ ለእጅ ተያይዘን እንዲህ እጅ ለእጅ ተያያዘ የለም። እኛ ነን የመጀመሪያ እጅ ለእጅ ተያይዘን ፍቅር ልቆ ሲታይ የሚል መጽሔት ወዲያውኑ ስፖንሰር አፈላለጉልን። ከዚያ በኋላ መጽሔታችን ታትሞ ለመጀመሪያ ጊዜ ተለቀቀ።
ስትጣሉም በልክ አድርጉት መታረቅ ስለሚመጣ። አንዳንዴ ባልና ሚስት ሲጣሉ መልሶ የማይታረቁ ይመስላቸውና ይፈነካከታሉ። እና ትምህርት ይሁን ለሁላችንም። ጸብ የመጨረሻ ግብ አይደለም። አንድ ቀን ሰላም ሲመጣ እንዳናፍር ጸቡንም ራሱ በጥንቃቄ ማስኬድ ያስፈልጋል። አቶ
አብይ በሰላም ጉዳይ ላይ እዚህ ውጤታማ መሆናችንን ሲረዱ ዱባይ ዩናይትድ አረብ ኤሚሬትስ በ45 የዛኔ 44ኛ አመታቸው ነው እድገት ካሳዩ ዱባዮች ማለት ነው። ዱባይ በቅርብ ጊዜ ነው የኢኮኖሚ እድገት ያመጣችው። ዱባይ ውስጥ መሪው ሙስሊም ነው። በዚያ ላይ የተለያዩ ቤተ እምነቶች አሉ። የኦርቶዶክስ ቸርች እዛ እንዴት እንዳለ ታያላችሁ። የፕሮቴስታንቶችም እምነት እንዴት እንደሚያካሂዱ እስቲ ልምድ ወስዳችሁ ነው ብለው ወደ ዱባይ እንድንሄድ ተደረገ። እዚያም ሄደን በየቤተ እምነቶቻችን ምእመናኖችን አግኝተን ስለ ሰላም ጉዳይ ሰብከን ለ14 ቀን ቆይተን እንድንመጣ ተደረገ።
ከፍቅር የሚተካከል ምንም መመዘኛ የለም። በፍቅር ከተግባባን ድንበር ምናሰምረው ሳይሆን የማያስፈልገን ሊሆንም ይችላል። በፍቅር ከተግባባን እዚያ ያለ የተረፈ ነገር ካለ እዚህ ምንካፈለው፣ እዚህ ደግሞ ካለ እዚያ ምንካፈለው ይሆናል። ምክንያቱም በኢትዮጵያ ጉርብትና ቡና የሚጠራሩበት፣ ሲኒ የሚቀባበሉበት፣ አንዳንዴ መክተፊያ አቀብኝ የሚባልበት ጭምር ስለሆነ ጉርብትና እዚህ ያለውን እዚያ